2006, Massachusetts governor's race took an unexpected turn. Then Attorney General Tom Riley was supposed to have the Democratic nomination locked up, but then a little-known candidate named Deval Patrick came out of nowhere, inspired his party's base, and beat Riley in the primary. Patrick then cruised to victory over Republican Kerry Healey in the general, and the rest is history. Now, 8 years later, Democrat Don Berwick is hoping history will repeat itself. The former Medicare and Medicaid chief is trying to vault past Democratic insiders Martha Coakley and Steve Grossman in the September primary, and Don Berwick is back. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
So, tell me honestly, is it a little bit frustrating? We were just talking about the buffer zone ruling in the Supreme Court. Martha Coakley has been getting a lot of attention over this because she's out there imaging herself, as the face, the voice for women's rights, and going back at trying to establish some kind of a buffer zone around these abortion clinics. Is it frustrating? Because for a while there, she seemed a little bit vulnerable, but she's...
Well, let me just first say around the buffer zone decision, it's bad. It hurts women. It's something that we've got to reverse. Part of the trend in the country, I think, for people not to be represented and their interests not represented. I'm basically excited by the campaign. My experience is of a constant gain in momentum, and we had a thrilling result at the convention. Not a surprise to me.
You were very confident about that.
We knew it was going to happen, but to have it really happen was great. We basically tied the Martha Coakley, sitting Attorney General, allegedly lead candidate, and the reaction to the progressive agenda that I've been bringing forward around the Commonwealth. It's constantly reinforcing. I'm very excited, and I think we're going to do well.
Everybody goes to Beacon Hills, I'm going to change, the system as it is, politics as usual, it's all going to get different. I mean, we're just seeing this probation trial wrap up now. We know we've learned one thing out of this, and that is that patronage is not illegal. What can you do, though? It's going to continue, maybe not to the extent that it did at the Probation Department, but what would you do about it?
It's unacceptable, illegal or not. It erodes public trust. It's a violation of trust. We're putting people into jobs that are highly responsible. Probation officers, those jobs should go to the people who really can do the job best, not based on who knows who or who owes what favor to whom. We've got to put a stop to it. As governor, I would promise that we're going to turn the lights on this. I would spotlight this kind of inside baseball, understand its dimensions, and I would work with progressive legislators to change the framework so that we can stop this. Government
everybody participates.
Hopefully not everybody, and government, I say, has to function like a really well-managed business, the kind of organization I started and ran for 19 years. I think that citizens are customers, and proper government attends to their needs the way any great company does, sometimes they fail.
So put yourself in the governor's seat, and you get a phone call from the President of the United States. He's asking you to help out with this influx of children coming through the borders in Mexico and other places from Latin America. He says, I need your help. Can you house them? Can you give me some temporary housing? Can you figure out sheltering until we determine what we're going to do with them? What would you do?
I'd say yes. Someone once said to me, there's no such thing as an illegal person, and I deeply believe that. Look, this federal government, the legislature, is letting us down. We don't have immigration reform. We don't have a constructive path to citizenship. That's a big failure of our leadership in Washington. One of the things that distressed me in Washington was that kind of timidity or paralysis. But look, they're here. They need help. But my whole campaign is focused on justice and equality and compassion in public life. These are children. Let's help them.
People get frustrated at that. They say, I get emails all the time from people saying, do we have to help everybody? And why are we spending $1 million on somebody who is undocumented that has a health problem?
Vote with your heart. Act with your heart. It's not naive. It's not wrong in public policy to say, would you walk by a child on the street? No, if he's in trouble. Let's not walk by people as a government, as a commonwealth. Let's show compassion and fight as hard as we can for proper policy that makes this kind of problem not be as egregious as it is. But I can't walk around somebody that is in need of help like that. We'll be prouder of ourselves for helping than for pushing it away.
You've been vocally opposed to this Partners deal, the expansion of the Partners Health Project, saying it would do irreparable harm to the healthcare system as we know it. How so?
It's a travesty. the deal is a travesty. Partners not. Partners is a wonderful, world-class organization that ought to be helping solve one of the largest problems in our state, which is healthcare costs that are too high and quality that's too low. They have the capacity to do that. We could reduce costs in the Commonwealth by a dramatic amount and make care better. That's what I've worked on for 30 years. Instead, what this deal does, it allows Partners to keep its prices basically where they are, plus growth in inflation. They're acquiring a very large system on the South Shore and the Hallmark on the North Shore, consolidating their market power in a market that's already monopolistic, which allows them to set their prices. It'll cause other providers to go out of business. Patients will lose choice. It's the wrong way to go. We need more fiber. I know what better healthcare looks like. I've worked at it for 30 years. We can have healthcare 20 or 30% cheaper than we have now, with much better outcomes, and Partners should lead that. And we need single-payer healthcare. This is another argument for that. I'm the only candidate for governor committed to Medicare for all. If we had a payer on our side that really worked for the public, then we'd be standing up to Partners and saying, you're great, but now we need your help.
Well, Martha Coakley, of course, backed supported the Partners acquisition. Do you actually think that you could reverse this decision?
I don't know the legalities of this particular decision, but in that corner office, I will fight as hard as I can for the interests of patients and families and communities, which involves both making healthcare better and lower cost. And by the way, better healthcare is the way to have costs lower when you're focused on prevention and continuity. I'll fight for fair pricing and for an appropriately competitive marketplace. I want to stand up for patients and families, not cave in. And I think what Martha Coakley did is really, it's chiseling the status quo into stone, and the status quo isn't working well for us. Ask laborers who are losing money every day because healthcare costs rise. Ask businesses that need more jobs. The best job creation we could do in this Commonwealth is reform healthcare for real, and that's what I'd like to lead. So
a couple weeks ago, Martha Coakley said, among other things, that you won't see an Annie Dukin case on my watch, and she named a couple other dramatic things that have happened in the state like that. Is that foolishness? Because, I mean, things happen on your watch, terrible tragedies happen while you're in office, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're totally responsible for it. How do you respond to something like that? Well, I'm an executive. I started and ran a nonprofit that worked on quality all over the world, in healthcare and communities. I know what quality looks like. It takes leadership from the top, and it's about building systems that work for people. Proper data and management, a workforce that feels really empowered, making sure they have the right tools and resources, investing in training. You need the governor. Is it foolish to say things like that? It's on Don Berwick's watch, you'll never see an Annie Duquesne case. Yeah, on Don Berwick's watch, we're going to make government function at the highest possible level that any company can. And when something does go wrong, everything should be a learning process. And by the way, the last thing to do is blame the workforce. I'll tell you, when things go wrong, what happens usually is that there's something wrong in the way the management has gone, and we need to stop that. Government needs to function with unequivocal excellence. All right, Don Berwick, always a pleasure to have you here. My pleasure, thank you.